This is Andi Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred. I'm delighted to be joined by former two-time world champion and now trainer Joey Gamache here in Cardiff. Joey, firstly, how are you?
I'm doing well. Very good, thank you.
I'm glad to hear it. Obviously, I've just done and wrapped up an interview with your man Otto Wallin, who has surprised a lot of people by appearing on this card on Saturday night, fighting on the Eubank Jr-Williams undercard against Kamil Sokolowski. Joey, talk to me about this fight. For how long have you known about it, and what do you make of Kamil Sokolowski as an opponent?
Yeah, we've known about a month, and Sokolowski is a very capable guy. You know, not a sensational fighter in that sense, but very capable and a fundamental guy that is dangerous. So, you know, you got to have good basics, and Otto has that. Otto's not taking anybody lightly, nor am I. And it's a good, tough opponent, especially Otto's been out for a while. So, you know, I think he can get some rounds here, and we're excited about that. We're just happy to be fighting again.
Joe, you mentioned rounds. Again, speaking to Otto, it was listed as a 6-rounder, was my knowledge, and he's just said he believes it's going to be an 8, but he needs to double-check it. Do you have any idea as to whether it will be a 6 or an 8-rounder?
Well, hey, like Otto, I hope it's going to be an 8, and that's what we want. You know, 8 rounds is more fair to an experienced guy like Otto. You know, it's a good matchup. I think it's worth 8 rounds in that sense, and it's not a give-me fight. It's a guy that's pulled off quite a few upsets, and, you know, like I say, with Otto, it's a different story. He doesn't take anybody lightly. We know every fight's a big fight, and that goes the same for Sokolowski. You know, he's pulled off a lot of upsets, and we can't let him do that here.
Joey, as we mentioned, the 8 rounds there, how would it ideally play out for yourself and for Otto come Saturday night? Would you like to see him gain a few rounds under his belt because it's been a year since he last fought, or would you like him to make a bit of a statement against Kamil Sokolowski just ahead of what he will hopefully be a big year for Otto?
Well, either or. I mean, when you think about it, because, you know, it's nice for him to make a statement, but he needs rounds. But we feel like we're going to get some rounds no matter what anyways. I've watched him a lot, his fights, and with current guys more than anything in the past. You know, it's a guy that if you hurt him, you got to get him out of there. So that's going to dictate more than anything. And it'd be nice to get some rounds in, don't get me wrong. But Otto has to be smart, and he has to, you know, let his hands go and do the job.
Joey, I imagine Otto probably feels a little bit like a caged animal at the minute with the last year and how the Dillian Whyte saga unfolded in front of you all. From you working with him in the gym, how much has he improved that we haven't been able to see since his last outing?
Well, tremendously, the improvement for sure. He's, you know, keeps developing, working hard, a real dedicated guy that's always in the gym, and a good thinker, and a guy that keeps pushing all the way around on his strength, his conditioning, his speed, his power, his defense, all good tools. And, you know, he's a guy that takes the sport very, very serious. So, you know, he has a great future with that, and he wants to display that in front of people to show that, hey, he's a guy that belongs up top.
Joey, just going back to the back end of last year, that Dillian Whyte situation, what did you make about it all and Dillian pulling out through injury?
Well, I mean, hey, Dillian Whyte has really proven himself. He's fought a lot of good fighters, and he's beat them. So, you know, he's earned his opportunity to fight this fight. And, you know, we would have liked to got that match, but some things happen and some things don't, so you can't stay on it. It is what it is. I could see if Dillian Whyte was a guy that never fought anybody, but he's done his tour duty, he's put his time in, and, hey, he deserves to get a good payday, and he deserves to fight.
Joey, with Otto now, provided Saturday does go to plan, he comes through and he's successful, he wins. What next? I remember speaking to him at the end of last year in New York, and he mentioned to me back then he'd like for Martin Ortiz winner, Luis Ortiz being successful in that fight. Given what's currently going on at the top of the division with Dillian, Tyson, Anthony Joshua and Alexander Usyk, would somebody like Luis Ortiz be the ideal candidate in your eyes?
Well, I mean, all those guys, truth be told, Otto being out for a year, in a perfect world to get this fight, then after this fight to get a step up, a little more step up, You know, this guy's a tough guy that will fight, not taken lightly. But to get another fight and then face whoever there is, I mean, whether it's Tyson Fury, whether it's this one, whether it's that one, whether it's Horkovic, whoever it is, you know, so we take things very serious, but on the other end, we need fights. We need to stay busy, and that's one thing Otto hasn't stayed busy. So it's that time now to say, hey, if you want to put us in big fights, we'll take those fights, but we got to have a couple tune-ups too.
Joey, just on the heavyweight division and the guys at the top, I just want to get your thoughts on the last couple of weeks and how everything's unfolded. There was talk of Anthony Joshua potentially stepping aside so that Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk could have an undisputed bout, which also would have meant Dillian stepped aside. And now we saw the purse bids on this past Friday, the largest purse bids in boxing history, won by Bob Arum and Frank Warren in a joint bid. Just get your take on how everything's unfolded and your thoughts on it all.
Well, I mean, hey, listen, of course we were disappointed Otto didn't get the fight with White. But like I said, that White has put his work in and deserves the shot. It'll be interesting to see how everything unfolds in that sense, and that could open up more opportunities against these guys. Hey, who knows what's going to happen with Fury and White? You got Usyk. Usyk's going to fight Joshua. Anything can happen there. I mean, I think a lot of people are writing Joshua off, but I still think he's a capable guy. It's just the up top in here depends how he comes in, with confidence or not confidence. I think that's the biggest change that he needs.
There's a lot of talk with AJ at the minute about his training setup, and we're led to believe he will be changing trainers and he will be making that announcement any time soon now. Do you think that's the correct move for him when you consider the guys who have been linked? So he went to see Ronnie Shields, Robert Garcia, Eddie Reynoso. The names are slipping me, but he's been around and spoken to these trainers based out in the US. Do you think it would be the right move for him if he did so?
Well, his trainer, his trainer, say his first name again?
Rob McCracken.
Rob McCracken, okay, very, very good trainer. I think more than having a problem with the trainer, it's more with AJ himself, and that's what's most important, because to adjust to another trainer, different style, it's going to be not, you know, it's not an easy thing. So I think more the focus should be is working with Rob and getting his head straight and putting a good plan together and learning from the last fight that this is what works. You know, it's simple enough. You're not going to outbox Usyk. He's a smart guy, Olympic gold medalist, unified cruiserweight champion, now heavyweight champion. And hey, I think AJ can pull it off, but he's got to do things right. He's got to sit down at the table and say, hey, this is what needs to be repaired. Is he going to get that in the U.S. with this trainer and that trainer? No, I just think there's not enough time.
Joey, moving away from that talk, one other topic I want to touch on with yourself is that of Teofimo Lopez. He suffered a shock and a stunning defeat to George Kambosos in the back end of last year. You've been in and around Teofimo's camps for a while. You wasn't involved in this camp. Just want to get your take firstly on why that was and how disheartening it was to have seen him lose, knowing you couldn't have given your input in that fight.
Yeah, I mean, I know Lopez very well. I was in his last two camps when he fought Comey, beat him, and when he fought Loma and beat Loma. I was disappointed, you know, just the fact that here's a guy that's a big lightweight that belongs at junior welterweight, that wasn't figured out to move him up to that next step. But, you know, I probably felt that Kambosos was there to beat. It was a lot of money on the table, and why not take advantage of being unified champion? But I think when you look back at that, it was a mistake, because the move should have been is to move him up. And yeah, it was, you know, how would I say it? It was unfortunate that he lost the fight, and he was champion when the titles could have been given up. But I'm sure he'll come back strong and do well. You know, they got to maneuver him a little more now. You can't just throw him deep in. You know, he's got to come back from that loss. And it'd be interesting to see where his career goes.
There were criticisms placed at the feet of Teofimo Lopez Sr. on the back of that fight for his instructions in the corner. Given the performances that we saw against Comey, you was involved, the performance against Lomachenko, again, you was involved. Was there any reason in particular as to why you wasn't brought in for this Kambosos fight?
Well, there was a few things there. Financially speaking, as far as what they weren't working with Top Rank at the time, even though Top Rank's the promoter, they got outbid by Eddie Hearn and first was Thriller. So that changed some of the dynamics there where, expenses, there wasn't money to be covered by Top Rank where they usually cover it, but they figured, hey, we're not promoting it, we're not going to cover that. So, yeah, I mean, I would have liked to been in the camp and seen him win, but, this is boxing. This is how things happen, and sometimes big parts are overlooked, and, it's difficult, so.
Have you had any conversations with Junior since that defeat?
I haven't seen him. I haven't talked to him. I get a lot of respect for him. He's a good man. He's a father, and also the son, the father. We've all worked together, and I know there's been some very critical errors of the father. And hey, that's boxing. You're on top 1 minute, the next minute you could be another place. So. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't have a problem with them. I mean, I wish them nothing but the best, and what will be, will be.
Right, Joey, we'll leave that there now. I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of your evening as I did with Otto. He's run off, so he's left you. So hopefully he hasn't left all of your stuff just sat back around by the bar. Oh, so that's perfect. That's perfect. It's great to catch up with you, Joey. First time I've been able to speak to you. We will tie in again later this week. And thank you for speaking to me in Boxing Social.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you very much. It's nice to see you covering boxing, and nice to see boxing getting covered, because it's a sport that always demands and needs that publicity to get it out there to keep these people interested in boxing. It's better for all of us.
100%, Joey. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.